Okay, so welcome. Today we're going to try something really different. This is a recipe that I have never made before. In fact, it's something that I spent some time this week putting together after reviewing a number of cookbooks, a number of different recipes online, because I want to try something. I want to try something different. I want to see if I can kind of distill a lot of information into one thing and get to the heart of what I want to make. And what I want to make is cinnamon rolls. Growing up as a kid, Sunday mornings, one of the few things that dragged me and my brother out of bed were the cinnamon rolls that my dad was making downstairs in the kitchen. It was his way of waking us up and getting us out of bed and fooling us before we had to go to church. But it was a Sunday ritual. It didn't happen every week, but it happened enough that it became a Sunday ritual. So cinnamon rolls have played a big part in my growing up and in my life since then. Um, so I want to see how I can make them, see if I can make them, kind of by combining different recipes, because everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has their beliefs about what makes a cinnamon roll a cinnamon roll. Is everything kept cool and stored in the fridge overnight to make it sweeter, or is everything fast and quick, or do you use shortcuts? It's a lot. Anyway, we're going to start by making a sweet dough. That is going to be the basis for our cinnamon roll. And in our pre-warmed bowl, we have 2 packets active dry yeast. We have half a cup of salt, and we have 2 teaspoons of salt with the sugar and yeast. Ooh. We're going to take our warm water. We need a cup of warm water. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the water needs to be warm, not boiling, 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is thankfully what comes out of my tap when I have the spigot or the handle angled just so. Let's get this nice and warm. Come on. If we go too hot, you're going to kill the yeast. If you go too cold, it's not coming to the party. Maybe a little bit more. All right, here we go. That is 1 cup of water. It goes into the bowl. We are going to mix to combine. I can already smell that lovely yeasty smell. Okay, now that's got to go for 15 minutes, but while we're waiting, we're going to take a cup of milk, place it in a little pot, and then 1 stick of butter that I have cut up ahead of time into the milk. Once we get the yeast to bloom, we don't want to put it back to sleep. So we're going to warm this up while it's blooming. But I don't want the milk to boil or overflow. So I've got it on very low heat. 15 minutes from now, we'll be back. We'll check out our bloomed yeast and we'll get things to going. Okay, 15 minutes have gone by. Our yeast is bloomed, looking pretty. Our butter and milk mixture is warm. The butter is all nice and melty. Now, in this bowl, I have an egg. I'm going to beat that. Now, I don't want scrambled eggs in my cinnamon rolls. So what we're going to do, small amount of this warm liquid, mix. Probably be better if I use my right hand because that's my smart hand. A little bit more. Just to start bringing the eggs up to temperature with everybody else. And take this, the rest of this, and we're going to pour into our yeast mixture. And we're going to add this as well. We're going to give this a stir to combine. Okay. Now we've got everybody all blended into the party, it's time to talk flour. We're going to be using bread flour for this because this is, after all, a sweet bread dough. Hey, there's a measuring cup already in there. Isn't that great? Things I don't remember doing. We're going to put 2 cups in to begin. These are quarter cups that I've got. Yes, I'm doing this by volume, not by weight. Please don't come for me. 3. 5. 6. 7. And you make 8. One of the things that I noticed while looking at recipes and trying to figure this out was that nobody had an exact amount of flour. Even the people that like to weigh their flour didn't have an exact amount to use. It was more start here and add flour until you think you've got enough. So instead of telling you all an exact amount of flour, we're going to start with 2 cups, and then we're going to add until we get a ball of dough, which right now we are definitely not there. We are in the imitation gruel stage at this point. We want to go much, much further than that. So I'm actually going to add a couple of heaping quarter cups, so about a little over a half cup more flour to this. And just keep going until we get an actual ball of dough started, which we may be getting closer. In fact, you know what? I'm going to make this easier by taking it off the stand. More flour. So with that, we are up to 3 cups of flour. Starting. It's definitely getting harder to stir. I can say that. But we're still not there just yet. Closer. Much closer. This time I'm only going to add 1/4 of a cup. Once we get it to actually function as a ball of dough, I'll put it back on the mixer and let the dough hook go down, kneading this thing. Oh, so close. So close. Oh, once I get this all together and whatnot, I will be putting my cinnamon rolls before a panel of tasters, and should they pass the test, I will put the actual recipe for this in the description. So if you're watching this and you see a recipe in the description, well, then this whole thing was a success. If you're watching this and there's no recipe in the description, that'll tell you I made a big, big mistake. And you're watching a funny. Okay. All right. We have achieved mostly dough ball status. So, scrape down the sides. Best I can. Get off of there. Okay. Dough hook. It is important, especially with a ball of dough like this, that you lock your mixer or else it'll go bad. Let's just go with that. It's also important to plug in your stand mixer. Mistake I've often made. All right. As we've talked about before in other recipes involving dough and flour, the exact amounts are often a mystery because it's influenced by humidity, elevation, the phase of the moon, all kinds of different things can change how much flour you need to achieve, well, anything. Like even this, I thought, really done. I was wrong. We still don't quite have a ball of dough. Okay, so my camera person had an oopsie and dropped the camera. And while we got everything back together and working, I made the executive decision to pull the dough out of the bowl and do this by hand because it is being difficult. So we're here kneading it by hand. Just making sure that we get the flour incorporated and that this bad boy is not sticking to absolutely everything it touches. Because while being sticky can be an advantage at the beginning, at this point, it is just pain in tuchus, which is a wonderful Yiddish word that I feel does not get enough use. So while we're kneading, notice it's stuck to me again. That means we need a little bit more flour. So, why, thank you, camera person. Good, 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 good. I want to try to make sure that it is not pulling apart. Should not be so damp that it is sticking to you, to anybody else, let alone the countertop. Almost there. Come on, almost there. Then, once we've got our dough fully kneaded where we want it to be, now we have to let it rest. Look, see, nothing is coming up on my hand except what was already there. That's the point we are looking for. So we're going to roll this bad boy into a ball. Get a bowl to put it in. If I could get the bowls out of the cupboard. We have a lot of metal bowls. Unfortunately, they do not like to leave the cupboard without a fight. Should I have prepared this ahead of time? Probably. Oh well. Now, I also need to get a little oil to make sure that this doesn't dry out. I am going to use olive oil. You can use whatever oil that you would like. I tend to be a fan of olive oil. All right. All sides get nice coating. A little bit more. There we go. Ooh. All right. This goes in a warm place with a nice terry cloth towel, or in the absence of that, excuse me, paper towels. And it sits for an hour. So we'll be back in an hour. Okay, an hour has come and gone. Our dough is ready to go, but before we actually get into that, we need to make the filling that's going to go in between our layers. And we need to prep our pans. First thing we need is 1 cup of tightly packed brown sugar. I can tell it's tightly packed because it hasn't moved from that shape since I put it in the bowl 15 minutes ago. In addition, we need a stick of softened butter. Unsalted is what we need here. And the brown sugar, you can use light, you can use dark. I prefer dark because I think it has a better flavor than the light brown sugar. And then the last thing that we need for this, because these are supposed to be cinnamon rolls, is actually cinnamon. We need 2 healthy tablespoons of cinnamon. All right. And then we just need to combine. Smoosh everybody together. Now, there are some recipes that will tell you not to do it this way. They tell you to maybe melt the butter and then drizzle this on top of everything. Look, do it however you want to do it. This version, for me, this makes more sense to chunk everything together. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be great. Just, we're going to go in here barehanded anyway once the dough is rolled, but just to get everybody started. We're going to set this aside. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take the pans that we will be placing our cinnamon rolls in, and we're going to add more butter to this. Can you use cooking spray? Yes, you can use cooking spray. But cooking spray doesn't bring flavor. Butter, on the other hand, adds a nice flavor to the package. So I'm going to make sure we get the entire bottom and sides of the pan. That side. And we do our round pan too.
Does this butter matter if it's salted or unsalted?
I would stick with the unsalted butter. It doesn't honestly matter, but I prefer, when baking, to use unsalted butter as much as possible, simply because I want to control the salt content in my baked goods. Come in here. Just make sure we get down in the crevice. Okay, and that one can get set aside as well. Now that we've done our prep, we can focus on rolling out the dough. Want to make sure we've got flour down. As you can see, our dough has come up in the world. Flour here. And then we're going to need our rolling pin. And now this is where the size of my kitchen and the kitchen counter may work against us. Because we want to roll this bad boy out. And as you can see, I don't have a lot of space to work with here. Try to get this rolled out. Turn. Gotta move my light sticks because they're in the way. This does not have to be perfect, obviously. What we're trying for is to get it at least somewhat square or rectangular. But we're most likely not going to get perfectly rectangular. And that is okay. All right. So we're going to work with what we've got here. I am getting our filling together. As I said, I'm going to come in here with my hands and really get everybody mixed together better so that we can make a layer on the dough. We want to leave a part of the dough at the top and at the bottom without any kind of filling on it so that we have space to seal off our roll, because that's the next thing we're going to do is roll. This, again, does not have to be 100% perfect. We're going to see some melting. And this will stretch. Try to get coverage as much as we can. Sides. Okay. All right. Far from perfect. But again, first time I'm trying this, so next step that we got to do is we got to start rolling this. carefully. Okay. All right. Take this last bit and we roll over. We want to pinch to seal it. Pinch side towards the bottom, much as we can, if it will cooperate. Okay, from here, we need to cut these into rolls. Serrated knife is going to be your friend here. Take our pan as we go. Give these guys a little bit of room. I have a feeling I'm probably going to need another pan. But let me get these guys in here before I worry about that. Maybe at some point I can find my voice, because it just tried to get away from me.
How wide are you cutting them?
About an inch. About an inch for each roll. Good question, though. If you want to look, I'm just eyeballing these things, but look, between 21 and 22, it is about an inch. So go eyeballs. Okay, folks, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get another pan together to put the remaining rolls in. And then we're going to let them sit for 20 minutes so that they can proof a little bit more. And then, once that's done, they're going to go into a 375 degree oven for approximately 35 minutes. When we get close to the end of the baking, we're going to come back together and talk about how to make cream cheese whipped icing. Okay, with 20 minutes gone, I'm going to pick up our towels that we have covering the cinnamon rolls. We're going to go into the oven, 375 degrees. Now, we are putting these in both racks. So that means what I'm going to do is, after about 15 minutes, I'm going to rotate them so that Nobody has to spend too long on the lower rack. Nobody gets burnt. All right, so while we're baking the cinnamon rolls, while they're in the oven, getting all nice and golden brown and delicious, let's start this two-part process of making the whipped cream cheese icing. Now, this might be a rather um, dangerous thing that I'm doing because I'm going to be mixing this first part in a bowl that is way, way, way too big for the stand mixer. It's my old bowl from my old mixer because well, I never throw anything out. That would be silly because it could be useful. It doesn't quite fit on the stand, but I'll hold it. We just want to cream this together. It is 2 bricks of cream cheese, 1 stick of unsalted butter, that have been allowed to soften. We're going to add a cup and a half, powdered sugar. One, and this makes 3. Awesome. And a splash of vanilla. All right. Lock it down. Ooh. Like I said, ill-advised. But one does what one can. And in this case, one has trouble holding the bowl. All right. That's good enough for this part. Thankfully, because everything was nice and soft, because it's been sitting in this hot, hot kitchen all afternoon, it made it much easier to mix together. Okay. Now thank you, camera person, for knocking that over. I have no idea what it was. We just want to make sure we don't have any thick chunks of cream cheese because I don't think that's tasty. I don't know about anybody else, but this is where we're at. Okay, the second half, we have a cup of heavy cream. Now this is kind of important. I'd had this mixing bowl in the refrigerator cooling down, and we want to keep the whipped cream cold so that it gets nice peaks. We're also going to put in just a pinch of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar helps to stabilize said peaks and keeps everybody from falling apart. We're also going to add another cup of powdered sugar. And another shot of vanilla. Grab our whisk attachment, fit it to the mixer. Start slow. And then we get going. We want to keep this going to get stiff peaks of that whipped cream. But since the powdered sugar is not cooperating, sticking on the sides, I'm going to real quick scrape things down just so I don't leave anybody behind. Get down there. Get in there. Play nice. Jeez, you kids today. All right. Really give it a good high speed whipping. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but when it starts to form pathways in the mixture, that's your clue that you're getting close. Back this off. We're going to see what kind of peaks we have. Not stiff. Very floppy. That's not where we want to be. So we're going to put this back in. And give it the spurs again. You have to be careful when you're making whipped cream like this so that you don't end up making butter. In this case, it'd be very sweet butter, but that's not what we're going for. I think we're almost there. All right. Definite improvement. Stands on its own. That is the definition of a stiff peak. That is what we want. So that's done. Now for the truly fun part, folding. But I think it's time that we check on our cinnamon rolls that are in the oven because I can already smell them. So let's take a look down here. Ooh, those look phenomenal. Move everybody around. But you see what I meant about not worrying about being perfect? It's all nice and bubbly. All right, give those another 20 minutes. We'll check on them again. But for now, it's folding time to make our icing. What we want to do when folding. We want to take the lighter stuff and introduce it to the heavier stuff in small batches. We want to go down through the middle, over. We're not just stirring, we're literally folding. You can see the color starting to lighten because of the introduction of the incredibly light white whipped cream. And yes, I did whipped on purpose. Another batch. Here we go. Down and around. you spend time getting all the air into the cream. If you just mixed it without folding it, all that air would go away. Some of the lightness that we're going for in this icing would disappear, which is definitely not what we want. How nice and smooth we're getting. Gee, it sounds like somebody's murdering the neighbor kids again, based on the amount of yelling that's going on outside. I hope, dear audience, that you can't hear it. But good Lord, I can. The last bit of the whipped cream. And it looks pretty good, honestly. Tell you, this is always a nice little workout for your arm because of the way it has to be turned. All right. So now I want to see where we're at. I, of course, am going to allow my camera person to taste it as well.
Good.
Yes, that is very good. I am quite pleased.
That was some crackers.
Okay, that's a little extreme, but I'm glad you like it. So this then can go into the fridge for a little bit while we wait for the rest of the baking to be done on the cinnamon rolls. I'm not putting this in the fridge for a very long time, but it's got to go in there so that it doesn't all melt. We don't want it melting until it goes on top of the cinnamon rolls. See you back here in a few. All right, cinnamon rolls are out of the oven. I took the square pan, placed a cutting board on top of it, and flipped it. And this, my friends, is what we're looking at coming out of that pan. Now we're going to take this corner roll. That's the top. A little bit of icing. Ooey gooey. And we're going to have ourselves a taste test. Yes, you are holding, so peel this hot thing open. Camera person.
Thank you.
Child person. Pull. Pull. Well. Well, I would say this is a success,
Mhm.
ladies.
Yup.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to have to put the recipe in the description. Fantastic.